She tasted blood in her mouth before she even opened her eyes. The dirt was cold, wet, pressed against her cheek like a warning. All she could hear was breathing, not hers. Dozens of them. Watching, waiting, and the sharp whisper of someone's voice. Low, cruel, and familiar. "Get up, Avery. Or do you want them all to see how useless you are again?" Avery Blake didn't move. Not yet. Because she knew how this would go. She'd try to stand, her legs would shake, someone would laugh, and the cycle would start again. They always started with the pain, then the humiliation, then the silence. And today was worse than usual. Today was her 21st birthday, and she still hadn't shifted. Let that sink in for a second. Everyone else in her pack had shifted by 16. Most did it under their first full moon. Blood rushing, bones breaking, power roaring up their spine like wildfire. They said it was a beautiful pain. But Avery? Avery never felt anything. Not a twitch, not a whisper, nothing. In Silver Ridge, a town run by wolves led by bloodlines, being wolfless wasn't just a flaw, it was a curse. And she was born with it. She pushed herself up slowly, dirt streaked across her arms, blood at her lip. Her vision swam, and for a moment, she couldn't tell if it was from the hit or the humiliation. Around her, the training pit echoed with silence. Not a single hand reached out to help her. Not her cousin, Emma, who used to braid her hair before school. Not Jason, the boy who once swore he'd protect her when they were 12. And definitely not her father. He stood at the edge of the pit, arms folded, jaw tight, expression unreadable. Sheriff Hank Blake, alpha of the Silver Ridge pack, her father, in name only. "She's slowing us down," someone muttered. "She should have been sent to the rogues years ago." Avery clenched her fists so hard her nails bit into her skin. She wanted to scream, shift, prove them wrong, but there was nothing inside her. No fire, no wolf, just the sound of her heartbeat and the sickening weight of a truth she never asked for. And you know the worst part? She used to believe it was her fault, that maybe she wasn't strong enough, or pure enough, or good enough. They made her believe that. Every glare, every whispered insult, every time her father introduced Emma as his only daughter in public, Avery wasn't just ignored. She was erased. And today would be the final nail, the ascension ceremony. Every year, under the last full moon of fall, the unshifted of Silver Ridge stood before the entire pack. If their wolf didn't come, that was it. They were cut off. No bond, no pack, no name. And for Avery, that meant something worse. It meant being forgotten by the very people who raised her, who bled beside her, who pretended she didn't exist. "You have until tonight," her father said, stepping closer. His voice was quiet, almost gentle, which somehow made it hurt more. "One last moon. If nothing happens, you're no daughter of mine." Now, pause right there. Because this story, this isn't just about wolves, or powers, or magic. It's about every person who's ever been told they weren't enough. Every girl who got cast aside for not fitting the mold. Every time someone you loved looked you in the face and saw nothing. Avery's story is yours. It's mine. It's all of ours. Because we've all been down there in the dirt just like her, bleeding, aching, humiliated, and alone. But the difference is, she doesn't stay there. So if you've ever been underestimated, rejected, or made to feel like you didn't belong, don't go anywhere. Because this story, this is the moment everything starts to change. And when it does, every alpha will bow. Before we dive deeper into Avery's journey, if you're already hooked, go ahead and like this video, subscribe, and comment where you're listening from. I see every single one, and your support helps this story reach more people who need to hear it. Ready to step into the fire with her? Let's begin. The fire crackled behind her like it was laughing. Avery's feet were bare, her skin damp with sweat and fog. Pine needles bit into her soles, and the cold wind made her black ceremonial dress stick to her skin like wet paper. It wasn't even midnight yet, but the judgment had already begun. Around her, the pack stood in a half-circle, watching. Faces she'd grown up with, faces she used to call family. Now? They looked at her like she was something rotting. Her father stood at the front, shoulders straight, jaw locked. Alpha Hank Blake didn't flinch when she met his eyes. He just stared, like she was a stranger standing where his daughter used to be. "You know the rules," he said flatly. "You shift, or you're no longer one of us." The woods were dead silent. No birds, no crickets, just the rustle of fur as the others began to shift. She hated how beautiful they looked when it happened. Emma, her cousin, was the first. A shimmer of gold, then bones snapped, fur erupted, and a gleaming auburn wolf stood where a girl had been. The crowd howled. Cheers followed, then Jason, then Marcy, then 3 others in rapid succession. The pack celebrated like it was a high school graduation, and Avery just stood there, motionless in the cold, every second heavier than the last. "It's her turn," someone muttered. "She won't do it. She never has." "Why is she even here?" Her throat burned, but she stayed quiet. Her fingers curled at her sides. Her breath came fast, her chest tight. She could feel every eye boring into her like a brand. The shame didn't just live inside her anymore. It radiated from her like heat. The moon was high now. She stepped forward. Her heart screamed for something to rise. Anything. A flicker of instinct. A flicker of the beast. The stories always said it felt like being pulled inside out. Bones cracking. Soul splitting. The wolf clawing its way free. But she felt nothing. Just her heart, beating too fast. And the silence of something that had never spoken. A dry laugh echoed from the right. Jason again. "It's official. The sheriff's daughter is hollow." That did it. The laughter spread like wildfire. Even the elders didn't stop it. No one stepped in. No one defended her. Her knees locked. Her lips pressed together so hard she tasted blood again. Her father stepped forward. Not fast. Not angry. Just done. He didn't shout. Didn't scold. He simply raised his hand, palm outward, the ancient symbol of disowning. The fire cast it in shadow. "By the law of the ridge," he said, voice calm as stone, "and the blood of the Blakes, I revoke your name, your lineage, your claim. From this moment forward, you are wolfless, and you are no daughter of mine." Avery didn't cry, not because she didn't want to, but because even her tears felt unwelcome here. Like if she gave them that much, she'd never get it back. She stepped off the stone platform. Each footstep echoed louder than the last. The wolves didn't howl. No one spoke. And the fire behind her kept crackling, like it was the only thing alive. She walked back into the woods alone, through the trees, past the borderline. Her breaths were shallow. Her body numb. Her soul weightless. It was over. She wasn't Pack anymore. She wasn't anyone anymore. That's when the wind changed. A scent she didn't recognize. Cold leather. Burnt metal. Not wolf. She turned, just as the headlights flared through the trees. A black SUV pulled up on the dirt path. No plates. Windows tinted so dark they looked like stone. The engine idled. The door opened. and a man stepped out. Long coat, gloves, surgical calm. He didn't smile, didn't even blink. He just looked at her like she was already property. "Avery Blake?" he asked. Her breath caught. "You're coming with me." She didn't speak, didn't move, but something inside her, something quiet, something cold, curled into a tight fist. Because whoever this man was, he didn't smell like a threat. He smelled like the next chapter of her nightmare. Who is the collector? And why does he want a girl with no wolf? She woke to the sound of metal breathing, a low hum, air conditioning, the faint hiss of gas through vents. Not trees, not wind, not home. Avery's eyes snapped open, white ceiling, fluorescent glare. No windows. She tried to sit up. Wrists stopped her. Leather straps, tight, digging. Her pulse thudded against them like a drum. Memory rushed back in fragments. The black SUV, the man's voice, the sting in her arm. Then nothing. Now, this. She swallowed hard. The air tasted sterile, chemical, heavy, too clean to breathe. A soft click, door opening, footsteps, slow, measured. He walked in like he owned silence itself. The same man from the woods, Dr. Elijah Crow. Dark suit, no tie, silver streak in his hair, eyes flat as glass. He didn't look like a scientist. He looked like someone who collected things that screamed. "Good," he said quietly. "You're awake." His tone was polite, practiced, chilling. He held a clipboard, but he wasn't reading it. He was watching her face, studying reactions, measuring fear like data. "Where am I?" Avery's voice cracked. "A rehabilitation facility," he answered. "You've been selected for a very specific program. I didn't agree to any program. Your father did." The words hit harder than any blow. Her father's signature. Her father's silence. Of course he did. Crow smiled, almost kind. "Don't think of this as punishment," he said. "Think of it as potential." He turned a page. Pen clicked. "Wolfless subjects present fascinating neurochemical variants. The absence of transformation leaves unused pathways. We intend to unlock them." Unlock. The word felt wrong, like he was talking about a lock inside her bones. The door behind him hissed open again. 2 guards entered. Tall, dressed in gray tactical gear. Their movements were robotic. Behind them rolled a glass tank filled with blue light. Something moved inside it. Something breathing through tubes. A low, broken growl filled the room. "Meet Subject 19, Crow said. "You'll be working together." A shape rose within the tank, too large to be human, too human to be beast. Its eyes glowed amber through the fluid. Avery's blood turned to ice. "He's dangerous," she whispered. "He's perfect," Crow corrected. The guards unstrapped her, metal clicking like gunfire. Her legs wobbled when she stood. She was barefoot again, the floor cold enough to burn. They guided her down a hallway that never ended. White walls, mirrors, the faint echo of someone crying somewhere behind glass. She caught glimpses through the windows. Wolves half-shifted, hooked to machines twitching in sleep. People, animals, experiments. Her stomach lurched. They stopped at a door marked Therapy Room B. Crow keyed a code. The lock hissed. "Inside," he said. "Why?" "Observation." He stepped aside, gestured politely. Avery hesitated. The hallway wind pressed against her back like a hand. She stepped through. The door sealed behind her with a sigh. Darkness. Then movement. Chains. The sound of them tightening. She froze. Across the room, something pulled at its restraints. Slow, heavy, controlled. Amber eyes opened in the dark. He wasn't in a tank now. He was sitting, shoulders massive, skin scarred, breath ragged. Subject 19. He lifted his head just enough to look at her, not at her throat, not at her fear, at her. "They said you were empty," he rasped. "You don't look empty to me." Her breath caught. A single bulb flickered overhead. Her heart matched its rhythm, erratic, too fast. He smiled, small, tired. "Don't be afraid," he said. "They want you to be afraid." "Who are you?" "Someone they tried to fix." The chain jerked suddenly, loud enough to shake the walls. She flinched back. He didn't move again, didn't speak, just lowered his head and exhaled. The sound was half growl, half sigh. And in that strange, quiet moment, she felt less alone than she had in years. Above them, vents rattled. Crow's voice came through an intercom, calm and clinical. "Begin acclimation test." Gas hissed. Lights dimmed. Somewhere inside the walls, machinery whirred to life. Luca, she didn't know his name yet, but that's who he was, lifted his face toward the ceiling and closed his eyes like someone bracing for lightning. Avery took a single step back, hand covering her mouth. The hum grew louder. The chains tightened, and the wolf inside the man began to wake. The lights fail. The monster moves, and Avery learns what therapy really means. The lights went out before she could scream. Darkness swallowed everything. The hum, the hiss, the breathing. Only chains clanked somewhere ahead of her, slow and deliberate. Avery froze. Her heartbeat filled the room. She could smell metal, sweat, fear. Then, the sound. A growl that wasn't angry. It was warning. Something big shifted its weight. The chains scraped the floor. "Stay where you are." The voice was gravel and smoke. Not Crow's, not human. Avery couldn't see him, only the outline. Broad shoulders, a shadow crouched low. The air pulsed with heat, like the darkness itself was alive. A single red light flicked on above the door. Emergency power. It painted the room in blood-colored haze. That's when she saw him. The man. The beast. Both. Skin streaked with dark veins. Wrists bound in iron cuffs. Eyes that burned gold, bright enough to pierce through everything she thought she knew about monsters. You're real," she whispered. "Not for much longer," he said quietly. "They're about to start the purge. Purge." The word hit her stomach like ice. Sirens wailed behind the walls. One long tone, steady and low. She stumbled back until her spine hit glass. Inside it, shadows of other wolves twitching, convulsing. Crow's voice echoed through hidden speakers, calm as ever. "Subject 19. Increased response under visual contact. Proceed with phase 2. Electric crack. The chains jerked. The man convulsed, shoulders seizing, teeth clenched so hard they sparked blood." Avery's breath came out sharp. "Stop it!" She ran to the door, slammed her fists against steel. Nothing. The man sagged forward, smoke curling from his cuffs. He looked up at her again, eyes glazed, still gold. "Don't cry," he said, voice barely sound. "They love it when you cry." She didn't realize she was crying until the tears hit the floor. Every instinct screamed run, but her feet wouldn't move. Something inside her, something heavy and old, twisted. She crossed the room, 1 step, 2, close enough to feel the heat coming off his skin. The chains rattled, but he didn't lunge. He just watched her, chest heaving. "Why me?" she asked. "Because you still believe they'll stop." "And you don't?" "I stopped believing a long time ago." A loud clatter above them. Vents opening. A hiss. Gas. Avery coughed, covered her mouth. The air turned thick, sharp, burning her lungs. The man strained against his restraints, panic flickering in his eyes for the first time. "Get back," he growled. "They're dosing the room." But it was too late. Her head spun. The floor tilted. Her vision fractured. Red, white, gold, and in that swirling haze, she thought she saw him break the chain. One. Just one. He didn't attack her. He caught her. Strong arms, burning hot, the world folding in on itself. Everything slowed. He held her steady as the gas crawled up her throat. She could hear him breathing, rough and desperate, fighting something bigger than pain. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered. "Neither should you." He gave a soft, broken laugh. "They call me Luca." The name anchored her just before she blacked out. Somewhere far away, a door slammed. Voices shouted orders. Luca lifted his head, muscles trembling, chain half snapped. He looked at the girl in his arms. The wolfless one. The one who didn't flinch. And in his eyes something flickered. Recognition. Warning. Hope. She wakes to white light, cold questions, and the first glimpse of what awakening really costs. She woke strapped to a table, cold metal at her back, lights too bright to bear, needles in both arms, 1 heartbeat from panic. She didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe wrong, because she wasn't alone. Glass shimmered above her. 1-way mirror. Someone was watching. Behind her, a monitor beeped. Steady. She turned her head, barely, and caught a reflection. Bruised cheekbone, dried blood under 1 nostril. But her eyes? Still there, still fighting, still not broken. The door opened with a sterile hiss. A woman entered. White coat, clipboard, ponytail so tight it looked like it hurt. "Dr. Helena Frost," she said, not looking up. "Cognitive conditioning, day 1. Her voice was warm plastic. She circled Avery like she was inspecting a new toy, writing things, checking vitals. Not once did she acknowledge the girl in the body. "Subject shows strong emotional retention," she muttered, still attached to subject 19. Avery's throat tightened. "Where is he?" Frost finally looked her in the eye. "Alive. For now." 2 words. That's all it took. Every cell in Avery's body went rigid. Frost leaned in. "Tell me what you felt in that room." "What?" "Your pulse spiked. Neural activity doubled. Your wolf, or what's left of it, responded." Avery blinked. "I don't have a wolf," Frost smiled, not kindly. "Wrong. You have a dormant wolf. Something inside you shifted when he was in pain. For a second, the table wasn't holding her down. Her thoughts were dormant, not gone. Could that be true? Her chest burned with confusion, fear, hope, until Frost spoke again. "We're going to wake it up, even if it kills you." Pain hit before she could ask what that meant. Electricity, sharp, direct, not on her skin, in her veins. Her vision blurred, a high ringing filled her ears. She tried not to scream. Failed. Frost said nothing, just clicked her pen and watched the monitor rise. The table adjusted, tilted her forward. More wires, more sensors. Frost brought out a small vial, thick red liquid. It shimmered like it was alive. Alpha blood, genetically purified. Let's see what happens when we inject instinct. Avery shook her head. No. You don't know what that'll do. Neither do you. The needle sank deep into her arm. Fire. It felt like fire under her skin, like her bones wanted out. The room spun. She convulsed once, twice, and then she saw something. Not the room, not frost, woods, moonlight, a shadow with silver eyes staring back at her through trees. Run, a whisper from inside her own skull. Her wolf? It vanished. Frost stepped back, writing faster. Partial response, hallucination, marked improvement. Avery gasped, barely conscious. This isn't therapy, she choked. It's science, Frost replied. And your valuable data. She blacked out, but not all the way. Half sleep, half pain. Images blurred past. Machines, charts, another subject screaming 2 rooms down. In the flicker of awareness, she heard 2 techs whispering, Crow says she's different. You think she'll survive? He doesn't care if she does. Later, someone wheeled her through a corridor. Not a lab this time. A dark wing. She caught a door as they passed. Observation unit, failed subjects. Her blood turned cold. She was lowered onto a soft surface. A cot? A floor? She couldn't tell. But she wasn't restrained anymore. Lights dimmed. The door shut. Silence returned, except for one voice. Low, rough, familiar. You're back. She opened her eyes. Luca. Same cell, different room, and for the first time since arriving, she didn't feel alone. The wolf stirs again, and this time, it bites. He was screaming again. Not loud, not wild, not begging. Raw, animal, trapped. Avery jolted upright on the cot, heart already slamming in her chest. The walls were too thin. She could hear everything. Luca's voice wasn't human anymore. It came in broken growls. A wolf caught between 2 forms, between pain and rage. She ran to the door, pressed her palms flat to the steel. Luca? No answer. Just the sound of restraints pulling taut, the dull thud of his body slamming the floor. Again and again. Then something else. Dr. Frost. Her voice was cold through the speaker. Emotional proximity. Confirmed. Begin secondary injection. No! Avery backed away, panic clawing its way up her throat. Not again. Not after what they did to her. She slammed her fist on the glass. Stop it! She shouted. You'll kill him! She didn't know who she was yelling at. Frost, Crow, the guards. Didn't matter. None of them listened. The intercom hissed. Crow's voice this time. Then wake your wolf. Miss Blake, do it now and you both walk out of here. Her knees buckled. That voice, that command, it wasn't an offer. It was a test. One she wasn't ready for. Except she could feel something this time. Something coiled. Not rage. Not fear. Something older than both. The floor vibrated. She heard the crack of a chain breaking. Then silence. Then, Avery! His voice, barely more than a whisper. Run! Avery's head snapped back. Her hands clutched her skull. Fire bloomed across her chest. Not outside. Inside. Her vision warped. Every light in the room flared white hot. She gasped, dropped to her knees. It was happening again. But worse. Memories hit like lightning strikes. Her mother's scream. The car crash at age 9. Emma's hand letting go in the river. A lifetime of fear. Of never being enough. Her blood screamed for release. Then, a sound tore out of her. Not a cry, not a sob, a snarl, low, deep, not human. She looked down at her hands. They weren't hers. Longer, thicker, fingernails darkening to claws, veins glowing under her skin like molten gold. No mirror, but she could feel it, her bones shifting, her teeth lengthening. The wolf wasn't emerging. It was breaking free. Behind her, the security lights flickered. The sirens began again. Different this time. Containment breach. She heard boots in the hallway, shouting, "Subject is transforming! Secure her!" But she was already moving. On instinct, no plan, only fury. She burst through the door as it hissed open, before the guards even lifted their weapons. One went flying. The other backed up too late. Her claws sliced his arm as she passed, blood on her hands. But she didn't stop. Luca was still screaming. She followed the sound. Another hallway. Red lights. A reinforced door. Locked. She didn't hesitate. She roared. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't Avery anymore. It was everything they tried to bury inside her. The door dented under the first hit, buckled under the second, shattered on the third. There he was, collapsed, bleeding, barely breathing, still half-shifted, still chained. His eyes met hers, and for a second, he smiled. "Told you weren't hollow." She knelt beside him, panting, still half-wolf, still on fire. The guards were coming. She could smell them. But for now, for one perfect moment, she wasn't broken. She was becoming. What happens when the wolf fully awakens and the facility tries to take it away? Her heart wasn't beating anymore. It was pounding like a war drum. Her vision flickered, red, gold, white. Her breath came in bursts. Her limbs shook. Not from fear, but from pressure. Something was pushing out. The shift wasn't gradual. It wasn't gentle. It was violent. It was hers. They had no idea what they woke up. In the security hallway behind her, boots thundered toward the containment wing. Flashlights swept walls. Voices barked over radios. "She's loose! Level 4 override. Alpha subject is mobile. I repeat, mobile." But they were already too late. Avery stepped into the corridor. No, not stepped. Stalked. Bare feet on metal floor, skin burning hot, veins glowing just beneath, her spine arched, fingernails cracked, then snapped. Claws. She gasped, fell to her knees and screamed, except it wasn't a scream. It was a howl. The sound tore through the hallway. Alarms shrieked in answer. But it wasn't fear that filled the air now. It was submission. In the cells on either side of her, broken wolves lifted their heads. One by one, they howled back. Not in chaos, not in panic, in recognition. Behind her, Luca dragged himself to his feet, still bleeding, still half-wolf. He watched her, wide-eyed. "Avery, you're shifting." She turned toward him, eyes now glowing silver. Not gold like the others. Silver, bright, cold, ancient. Her body twisted, cracked, folded into something new. Bones snapped, fur tore through skin. Her jaw extended, her hands gone. Now pause, clawed, lethal. Then silence. And in that silence stood a wolf nearly twice the size of the others. Silver-streaked, midnight black, gaze locked and lucid. She wasn't lost in the shift. She was in control. Luca took a step back, not in fear, in awe. "You're not wolfless," he whispered. "You're alpha-born." The guards reached the hallway, 5 of them, fully armed. They saw her. They hesitated. That's all it took. She moved. Fast. Unnatural. The first guard didn't even scream. The second fired. Missed. She slammed him into the wall. Third dropped his weapon and ran. Smart. Too late. The fourth tried to talk. "Subject 7, calm down," she roared. He folded. Luca didn't move, just watched, eyes wide and shining. This wasn't chaos. It was a storm finally being allowed to break. When it was over, she stood at the center of blood, metal, and silence. The wolf turned back to Luca. And then, the impossible happened. She shifted back, smooth, clean, controlled, naked, bruised, panting, but whole. Luca knelt beside her, breathing just as hard. "No one's ever shifted back on their first time," he said. "They'll never let you leave now." Avery wiped blood from her mouth, not hers. She looked at him, calm, steady. "Then we don't leave," she said. "We burn it down." Behind the glass, alarms still blared. But somewhere deep in the lower labs, someone else had heard her howl. Someone who wasn't supposed to be awake. An alliance is born, a plan is forged, and the spark of rebellion catches fire. The air stank of rust and rot. Avery wiped the blood from her lips, tasted iron, and kept walking. The lights had stopped flickering. The alarms had gone silent. But they hadn't. 4 guards down, 3 corridors cleared, and now this hallway. It didn't show on Crow's floor plans. No cameras, no monitors. It was like the building itself didn't want this part remembered, which made it the perfect place to hide. Luca limped behind her, jaw clenched, body trembling from the partial shift. He refused to fall behind. Neither of them had spoken since the fight. But now, Avery stopped. Ahead of them was a door, unmarked, dented. Rust streaked down its frame. It wasn't locked. "You sure about this?" Luca asked. "No. But I'm not sure about anything anymore." She pulled it open. The room was dark. Dust choked the air. And then a voice spoke from the corner. "You're not supposed to be here." The girl who stepped forward looked no older than 17. Freckles, shaved head, pale eyes, a scar carved diagonally across her neck like someone had once tried to silence her. But when she spoke again, her voice was clear. "You're the Wolfless one." "Not anymore," Avery said. The girl nodded once, then turned, walked toward the back wall and pulled aside a canvas tarp. Behind it, 2 more figures, one in a wheelchair, eyes glowing faint blue. Another half-shifted, wolf ears twitching, arms wrapped tight in bandages. They weren't hiding. They were waiting. "We heard your howl," said the boy in the chair. "Every door on this level unlocked for exactly 3 seconds. You caused that." Avery stepped inside, closed the door behind her. "What is this place?" "What's left of us." They told her everything. About the failed experiments, the discarded subjects, the ones who didn't shift properly, the ones who shifted too far, the ones Crow kept off record because their existence broke the narrative. Luca leaned against the wall, listening in silence. "We've been watching," the girl said, "waiting for a sign. You were supposed to be defective. Instead, you woke us up." Avery looked around. There were supplies, wires, blueprints, notes stolen from labs, maps drawn in blood and memory. They had been planning this for years, but they were missing one thing: a leader. She didn't want to say it, didn't want to believe it, but her wolf stirred in her chest, calm, ready, and she knew what had to happen next. "I'm going back to the lab," Avery said. "There are others in cages, still sedated, still being used." "You won't make it in," the girl said. "Crow's locked down everything above level 2. No clearance, no access." "Then we find someone with clearance," Avery said. "Someone on the inside." Silas. The name hit her like a slap. She hadn't seen him since the first blood test. Victor Crow's right hand, expressionless, efficient, dangerous. But something about the way he'd looked at her, before the first sedation, before the shift, it hadn't been cold. It had been conflicted. "There's one more cell," the girl whispered. "Left wing, labeled unclassified. He doesn't belong to them." "Who is he?" "The one they couldn't break." Avery didn't hesitate. "Take me to him." Behind her, the broken wolves stood, some limping, some still scarred, all of them watching her like she was more than what they were told to be. And maybe, for the first time, she believed it too. Unclassified, uncaged, and the spark becomes a fire. The alarms didn't even have time to catch up. Avery was already moving. The lights hadn't turned red yet. The guards hadn't drawn their weapons, but she had already decided. The elevator jerked as it opened. She stepped out, barefoot, blood still dried across her jaw, and looked down the hallway that once terrified her. Now, she walked it like it belonged to her. Luca was behind her, still limping, but steady. The others, Kelsey, Rowan, Miles, spread out through the shadows. The plan wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. 5 minutes, Kelsey whispered. Then the systems loop. If we don't trigger it now, they'll wipe the sublevels. They didn't need more warnings. They needed freedom. Avery moved to the panel. Crow's override required a blood match. She didn't hesitate. Clawed her palm. Pressed it to the scanner. Access granted. Security loop initiated. All doors on levels 1 through 5 began to unlock. They ran, not away. Toward the sleeping cells, toward the labs, toward the rooms where screams were swallowed by insulation and fake science. Rowan took down the first guard. Miles ripped the muzzle off a sedated wolf. Kelsey found the control room and set the fire charges. Every floor. Avery reached Lab C, where Subject 14 was kept in cryo. A boy, maybe 15. Still human. Still untouched. She ripped open the lid. He gasped. Froze. She didn't speak. She just held out her hand. He took it. In the hallway, the fire alarms finally began. The first explosion hit somewhere deep underground. The walls groaned. Smoke bled from the vents, and then the sound that froze them all. Crow's voice, calm, icy, broadcast facility-wide. "This is a containment breach. If you're hearing this, evacuation is no longer possible. Subjects will be neutralized. The collection does not tolerate defiance," Avery growled. Luca stepped beside her. "They're going to flood the wing with fire. Then we take the exit before it lights." She led them toward the main lift, the one no subject had ever seen. It required 2 codes, one biological, one voice authenticated. She didn't have either. But Silas did. He stood at the final door, still in uniform, still unreadable. But his eyes flicked to hers. Once. Just once. And something inside him cracked. "This was never what I signed up for," he said, then handed her a keycard. "They're not monsters. You aren't either." He turned his back. No gun drawn. No words spoken. Let her pass. The lift opened. The rebels poured in, coughing, wounded, but together. Avery hit the top button. The facility groaned. Another explosion rocked the floors below. The fire was chasing them now. As the doors slid closed, Avery looked back one last time. She didn't smile, didn't cry. She just whispered, "I was born here. I'll never die here." The elevator began to rise. Smoke climbed after them. But it wasn't smoke that made her tremble. It was what waited outside. The surface, the packs, the people who had thrown her away. The first howl cut through the sky like a blade. Not from the trees, not from the pack, not from any wolf they knew. It came from her. Avery stood at the edge of the ridge in a long black coat, her silver-streaked wolf still flickering just beneath her skin. Behind her, Kelsey, Luca, Miles. 14 broken wolves made whole again. In front of her, the pack that disowned her. The same stone altar where she once stood alone. But tonight, the moon burned brighter. And so did she. "They said I was hollow," she said, voice calm but sharp. "They said I had no wolf, no worth, no place here." She stepped forward. Each bootfall echoed through the bones of the earth. "And yet, when the alphas hear my howl, they bow." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Dozens had gathered, not just Silver Ridge. Packs from Washington, Montana, Idaho, drawn here by whispers, by fear, by her name. Some tried to look away, but their wolves didn't. The moment her eyes locked with theirs, their wolves dropped their heads. Instinct, submission, recognition. Alpha Hank Blake stepped forward, still proud, still stiff, but his eyes wavered. "This isn't your place anymore, Avery," he said. She smiled, but it wasn't warm. "That's the difference, isn't it?" she said. "It never was. You made sure of that. You abandoned your own blood. And I found a pack that bleeds for each other." A low growl behind her. Luca, barely holding his wolf in. But Avery didn't need him to step in. She stepped past her father, to the center, the altar, where she'd once been cast out, arms scraped, heart shredded, dignity stripped. She placed her hand on the stone. "This is where you broke me. Now it's where I rise." The wind shifted. One of the visiting alphas, dark fur, golden eyes, shifted to his wolf without a word. He dropped to one knee. Another followed, then another, then the whole front line. Dozens of alphas, from different bloodlines, different regions, bowed. Not to fear, not to dominance, but to something older than both. Hank didn't move. Didn't blink, until Avery turned and faced him. "You are no longer my alpha," she said, "but I was always your daughter, and you'll remember that every time they say my name." She walked past him. He didn't stop her. Couldn't. Behind her, Kelsey lit a match and dropped it into the offering flame. The fire roared, hotter than ritual, brighter than any full moon ceremony. Not tradition, reclamation. Avery didn't watch the fire. She walked into the trees, silent, calm, complete. She didn't need to be seen anymore. The world had already felt her. The letters arrive, the mission spreads, and the wolfless girl becomes a legend. The first letter came folded in fur. Avery found it on the cabin steps just before dawn. No name, no seal, just a scrap of parchment tucked into a rough envelope made of stitched wolf hide. The scent hit her first. Not blood, not forest, desperation. She unfolded it with cautious fingers. The writing was shaky, rushed, barely legible. "They have my daughter. She hasn't shifted. They call her a null. She's only 12. They took her south, somewhere in Texas. Please, if you're real, help her." There was no signature, just the drawing of a broken crescent, scratched in black ink, a symbol she recognized. The collection wasn't dead, it had just moved. Luca stepped onto the porch behind her, wrapping a blanket around his shoulders. He said nothing at first, just stood beside her, reading the words over her shoulder. "We knew it wouldn't end in fire," he murmured. "It never does." Avery folded the letter again, tighter this time. Not from anger, from clarity. Kelsey was inside, helping Miles reinforce the walls. Rowan had been mapping pack borders for 2 weeks. The others, what remained of their rebellion, had taken to the forests, keeping low. They thought they were done. They thought she was done. But this letter said otherwise. "You know what this means," Luca said. She nodded. "There are more of us. Still trapped, still hunted, still waiting for a howl to follow." The second letter came 2 days later, hand-delivered. A rogue from Nevada, scarred muzzle, missing 2 fingers, said nothing, just handed her the note and ran before the others came outside. "They have a breeding facility in Arizona. They're experimenting on twins." I watched one shift. She didn't stop. She shredded through 3 floors before they put her down. "The other's still in there." Avery stared at the paper so long she forgot to breathe. She wasn't the only one who had shifted wrong. She wasn't the only one who had survived it. "They're not just collecting us," she whispered. "They're trying to control us." Luca's jaw clenched. "They're building something." And we burned just one facility. That night, the forest outside their cabin didn't feel safe anymore. Too many eyes in the dark. Too many voices waiting to be heard. Avery sat by the fire, turning the 2 letters over and over. Her wolf stirred under her skin, but not in anger, in purpose. For the first time, the feeling wasn't sharp. It wasn't pain. It wasn't rebellion. It was calling. Not to destroy. To find. To lead. She stood. The others looked up. No speech. No dramatic declarations. Just a look. They saw it instantly. That this wasn't home anymore. This was a pause. "Pack your gear," she said softly. "We leave at dawn." "Where?" Miles asked. Avery opened the drawer beside the fire and pulled out a black book. The notebook she'd kept from her time inside the collection. Names, patterns, failed experiments, facility codes, all of it scrawled in secret, memorized, held in blood. Everywhere they haven't looked yet. Everywhere they think we're not strong enough to go. The others rose without a word. They didn't need a reason. They had her. She walked outside. The moon was low. The trees breathed in silence. And still, she felt it. Eyes, letters, souls waiting to be seen. Her hand curled into a fist. The wind shifted. She didn't howl. Not yet. But when she did, the next wolves would hear it. And they would come. A new hunt begins. The broken are gathering. And the wolfless girl leads the pack now.